Out of nowhere, we just got the big announcement of a brand new Arrowverse crossover, but it's not like the ones we've had before. There's not going to be a big, huge, big scale crossover event on TV with the Arrowverse TV shows in live action. This is actually going to be a comics crossover, which technically we've had Arrowverse comics before, like for example the Crisis on Infinite Earths prelude comic, or technically I don't know if you'd actually call it a prelude because it was kind of just like it was connected to the events of the crossover and kind of just showed what went on behind the scenes, like stuff that happened during the crossover event that we just didn't see on screen, which I thought was pretty cool. But now we're getting an actual original story crossover told through a comic series, and it is 100% fully canon, and it is actually being brought to us by the people who work on these shows. So it is fully canon, and I think this is actually the perfect way to do an Arrowverse crossover at this point, because I mean, with COVID and like the pandemic and everything, like it's kind of hard to do a big scale crossover. And obviously we've had some smaller ones since then, like had some characters like, for example, John Diggle just popping up here and there in some different shows. And we had Armageddon with The Flash, which is pretty cool. But this is a good way to do an actual big scale crossover comic and also just explore more of these Arrowverse characters now in the comics, which I think is really cool. So let's go ahead and read the official press release about this brand new Arrowverse crossover. The creative minds behind the CW's hardest DC superhero shows are bringing their talents and the characters they've made so popular to comic books in a can't-miss comic book event. Earth Prime is a 3-month, 6-issue event set entirely in the universe of DC's popular superhero TV shows. All issues are part of the Warner Bros. Television show canon, approved by CW television show producers. Each of the first 5 issues spotlights a different CW DC superhero show, with the 6th issue serving as a crossover finale. So this here all sounds great. I think Earth Prime is a great name for it because that is actually kind of hinting the fact that, we may possibly be finally exploring the multiverse again, because after Crisis that was kind of closed off, but we know it exists out there. Especially with Stargirl now, but I think it makes sense because, all these shows take place on Earth Prime, except for Stargirl, which we'll get to a bit later, but I think this is cool that we're going to have, a spotlight on all these different shows, and then have all the characters pop up in the last one as the actual 6-issue crossover finale. And we have actual details and actual synopsises for these upcoming issues, at least the first 2 issues, with Earth Prime number 1, which will be releasing on April 5th, and this issue will be focusing on the CW's Batwoman. So Ryan Wilder, aka Batwoman, makes her costume comic book debut, because of course the character previously appeared in the comics, but not actually as Batwoman. So she makes her costume comic debut in a story co-written by series writers Natalie Abrams and Kelly Larson, plus series cast member Cameron Johnson, Luke Fox, Batwing, with art by Clayton Henry. So I think that's pretty cool that Cameron Johnson is actually involved in actually writing the comic as well, because he actually recently wrote, or at least worked on, a Batwing comic as well. So I think that's pretty cool. But now the synopsis for this is even more interesting. Ever since the tech that created many of Batman's rogues hit the streets, Ryan Wilder has been running herself ragged trying to contain the new villains popping up around Gotham City. But when Clayface, making his CW debut, his mud binds itself to a local high schooler, Batwoman will need help from an unexpected source to contain this muddy foe. Also, follow how Luke Fox balances his life as a superhero and a boyfriend. So this actually sounds really cool. I mean, when they first said they were spotlighting each show, I was like, the Batwoman's probably not going to be great. But the fact that we're getting Clayface, or at least a version of Clayface, I think is going to be pretty cool here. And also, it says Batwoman will need help from an unexpected source to contain this muddy foe. So who could this be? Because it has been confirmed that this crossover event could contain appearances of characters in not only canceled, or not canceled, but already ended Arrowverse shows like Arrow, Supergirl, or even Black Lightning, and even have appearances of characters from upcoming CW Arrowverse shows like Gotham Knights and Justice You. So there's a whole bunch of possibilities here of who could be showing up to help Batwoman take on Clayface. Maybe it actually is our Arrowverse Batman. I think that'd be pretty cool. But there's a lot of possibilities here. So let me know who you think it is in the comments below. Another thing I want to talk about is Luke Fox. Obviously, in the show, he's now become Batwing. But it's interesting how it says that he's balancing his life as a superhero and a boyfriend. So if you've been keeping up with Batwoman at this point in time of the show, in Batwoman Season 3, he does not have a girlfriend. He is not a boyfriend yet. So I'm assuming this means that by the end of the season, he will be a boyfriend. And I'm assuming he's probably going to be with Mary. That's just my guess. It's kind of what makes sense. But so far, this first issue looks like it's going to be a pretty good one. But then Earth Prime number 2, which will be releasing about 2 weeks later, will be focusing on the CW's Superman and Lois. Superman and Lois series writers Adam Mellinger, Jai Jameson, and Andrew Wong joined DC fan favorite artists Tom Grummett and Norm Rappland in a story spotlighting Clark Kent and Lois Lane's first anniversary. Trying to celebrate their marital bliss is never easy when you're a superhero husband and news reporter wife, especially when world-saving and creating hard-hitting stories continue to spoil your plans. Plus, the true origins of the evil Superman from John Henry Irons' world are finally revealed. And wow, this sounds amazing. So, first of all, right off the bat, it makes it very clear that this is most likely a prequel to Superman and Lois, because not only are they celebrating their first anniversary, which, I mean, we saw flashbacks to their wedding in the first episode of Superman and Lois, so that was, of course, before they had kids, so that was a while ago. So they're doing that, but then also the fact that it mentions that she is still a news reporter, which makes me think that possibly this story could take place in Metropolis, which I think would be awesome because, you know, Superman and Lois, it takes place in Smallville. The Kent family, they moved to Smallville, which I think is great. I love the setting of Smallville, but at the same time, I'd really love to see some Superman and Lois in Metropolis, and it seems like that's what we're going to be getting in this episode. On top of that, the true origins of the evil black-suited Superman from John Henry Irons' world, which I think is awesome, because that was kind of a thread left hanging in Season 1 that I doubt is going to be addressed in Season 2, that now we're going to finally get to see the origins of that character, and find out what's really going on with that Superman, why he's evil, and all that stuff, and I think that's going to be pretty cool. But guys, if you thought that was cool, it gets even better, because while we don't have synopsises for the rest of the issues, the other 4 issues of this crossover event, we do have a little bit of a description of what is to come after this. Both issues feature cover art by Kim Jacinto and will feature photo variant covers based on each individual show, and you are seeing those images on the screen right now. Our first look at the Batwoman cover and the Superman and Lois cover. I'm not the biggest fan of the art style, but at the same time, it is more stylized, so I actually do kind of like it. I'm not completely sure how I feel about it, but this is kind of going to be the art style that we'll be having for this. So it is pretty cool. Subsequent issues will spotlight the CW television shows DC's Legend of Tomorrow, DC's Stargirl, and The Flash, all written or co-written by creative talent from the shows. Each issue will also include bonus material created by cast members of the CW shows, as well as teasers that will provide clues to the nature of the final crossover in issue number 6. So that right there alone is a pretty big reveal as well. I mean, obviously we're getting The Flash and Legends of Tomorrow in here, but also Stargirl, which I guess is now technically part of the Arrowverse. I mean, we kind of knew it was before, but now, since this series is called Earth Prime, I assume that, again, we're dealing with some multiverse stuff, and that she will be coming, at least her, maybe even the whole JSA, will be coming to Earth Prime, probably just to help out with whatever the threat is, and then go back to Earth 2 at the end of it. And by the end of it, all of our heroes will know of the existence of the multiverse. Maybe we'll get some more stuff addressed with the new Arrowverse Justice League that was formed at the end of Crisis on Infinite Earths. I don't really know, but I'm definitely really excited to find out. Again, this series debuts with issue number 1 focusing on Batwoman on April 5th, 2022. I'm really excited for this. I think Earth Prime is going to be really good, and I think, again, this is like the perfect way to do an Arrowverse crossover at this point in time during the pandemic. But guys, you can let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. What do you think about the news of this brand new Arrowverse crossover that will be taking place in the comics and spotlighting each of our shows before culminating in this big number 6 issue crossover event? And what other characters do you think will pop up? Because it was also confirmed that we will be seeing other characters. There's so many possibilities here. Again, like with that Crisis on Infinite Earths prelude comic that I have, that featured characters that didn't even show up in the actual crossover event. Like, for example, Felicity Smoke was in there. We had Wally West, Kid Flash, the Ray was there as well. I believe there was a Wonder Woman that showed up, another Superman as well. So there's a lot of possibilities here, especially considering because it is in the comics. It's not like they have to bring back these actors or anything. They just have to draw them in. And I think that's another really cool thing that could make this a really great crossover event. And we don't even know what the actual crossover story is. Like, what's this big bad villain that we're getting here? I don't know, but I'm definitely excited to find out. So, anyways, guys, like I said, let me know your thoughts on this in the comments below. And thanks so much for watching. Please drop a like if you enjoyed this video. And hit the subscribe button so I keep it up to date on everything goes on